Hello, welcome to another episode of Full Circle with me, Onyx, aka Ouroboros. So, we are talking about kind of psychic protection and also anti magic. Anti magic can be your fix for psychic attack, magical attack. But anti magic has a place in magic. For a lot of people, I would say now it's a global epidemic where we think magic, we think religion, we think spirituality, we think belief systems and identity. Like some people will say, oh, I'm a witch, or someone will say, I'm a wizard. And we really identify with what we're doing. And this can be your trap. So it's kind of like riding a horse. You don't say, I'm a horse. You say, I'm riding a horse. Um, you could say, I'm a horse rider, but you don't say, I'm the horse. You know, it's kind of like that. But what is the point, right, of this hopefully very sobering experience? It's been my experience in that I've been in many psychic battles, few magical battles, and most of them with angry women with really strong beliefs. And when I have an opposing view, they personally feel threatened. And so then we get into a magical war. And the idea that we're all slinging energy, thoughts, feelings, uh, in a weird way, we're all engaged in psychic warfare. This could also happen at a mass scale where it just seems like a general population is conditioned through media to believe certain things are right and certain things are wrong. And when someone is behaving in a contrary way, probably an original way, a free thinking way, a free loving way, a free whatever way, uh, will have will have a violent reaction towards that. And that's to help everyone stay in line to the mass trance of love, the mass trance of work hard, earn money, gain things, the mass trance of you should be focusing on happiness, the mass trance of you should be socializing. And when you're doing something different, there's always someone who's heavily conditioned slash programmed, and they're gonna find you offensive. So racism is programming, and so anyone who's having a racist feelings, I don't really call them a racist. I say you're not a racist. You're just heavily conditioned. You are programmed. You've been brainwashed. You know, you're so left, you're right. You're so right, you're left. Like you're so polarized. And that what's really happening, it's not disassociation. There's this guy and he's calling it disassociation. I'm like, no, it's not, because but you're just heavily, you're having a violent reaction to things that confront your reality, the way you have constructed it in your mind, that make you feel violent towards races, colors, sexuality, age, everything from cat people to dog people, from Republicans to Democrats, from shirts and skins, you know, tea versus coffee people. I mean, my God, you know, and this polarization. Well, let's move past it. So you kind of get the idea that, and that's what is coming up for me. You know, what is relevant is recognizing my reactions. They're not really, you know, there's, are they saying something about me? No, they're saying something about my programming. They're saying something about the story that I'm living out, how it's had other people influencing it, and maybe I could eradicate that to become clear. So let's kind of move on. Uh, so a lot of people don't know the difference between an ally, an adversary, a villain, and let's see, not exactly an ally, but someone who is a companion. I would say someone on your same wave. So there's a spectrum. Here you are. Someone may align themselves with you. They'll be like, I like Onyx because he's into magic and I'm into magic. So I'm allied with him. So I will support him, or I like his personality, or I like the way he thinks. They're not exactly really liking me, but they're wanting to join forces and support that. So this type of friendship, this type of alliance is called an ally. Someone who is maybe opposed to these things, they go, I don't really know Onyx, but I'm really not into magic. That could be, that negative belief could be an adversarial force. They're not an enemy. They are just against certain beliefs, maybe race, maybe age, maybe gender, maybe, purpose in life. They could be against that. That doesn't mean they don't like me, but it means that they're also not supporting me. It's contrary to themselves. So they might be an inner conflict. So that is not an ally. That's the, but it's not a true enemy or a hater either. And then you actually have an enemy who actually just hates you and hates everything, maybe once again, everything you stand for, but basically their energy is opposed to your goals. So, and your purpose in life, and it's very possible that they, it goes into their game plan of what they feel like they need to do, which is to destroy you, absolutely annihilate you, pulverize you into dust, because for some reason your energy and forces are opposing the direction they're wanting to go. That's just how they're seeing it. So that would be an enemy. So that's someone who, hands down, will never support you. It's not, you know, an adversary can not support you maybe in gender rights, maybe in race, but they actually support you in your religion. You might both be Christian, but they might not believe black people should be Christian too. Or trans people get the same rights, but they believe everyone should be Christian and Christianity is the way. So they're never going to oppose you on your Christianity, but they might oppose you in different areas, might be gender, race, or whatever. So learning to differentiate in the workplace is what type of person is adversarial. There is some conflict, but they're not exactly your enemy. They support you in some ways and not in others. That is definitely an adversary, an adversarial opponent. Uh, and they're only that way sometimes. And then you have a true enemy. It doesn't matter what it is, they're always there to destroy you, not support you. So, then we have our ally, and then I guess what would be the opposite of an enemy? Friend? Conrad, whatever. I would say someone who supports you all across the board. That would be someone who's really true to you. And so there's a spectrum. And so I'm throwing that out there because you might be engaged in a psychic or magical battle or trying to resolve it, and that person maybe is truly an enemy. They don't really know you, they don't care to know you, and all they want to do is destroy you. And I feel like it's really easy when you objectify someone to the point where they're not real. they're one dimensional, that you go and try to destroy them. So you might be doing that to someone, because everyone who plays with protection magic has also played with curses and hexes. You know, that everyone has done their share of dark magic. There's no such thing as innocence here. So you need to decide, you know, is this really an enemy? Is this just an adversary? You know, it's like a family member who doesn't support you in maybe your religious belief, but then supports you in your financial goals. Like, who knows? So, you know, is it a gray area? Is it shady? And stuff. Let's go into your ally. An ally can actually turn on you and become an adversary. So they've supported you for years, and all of a sudden you're going to go into a new interest and they don't like it. Or all of a sudden they discover some of your personal core values are opposed to theirs. They could then switch over. And it's not like they were shading, they were wearing a mask. What's happened is you've got to know each other well enough that finally some of these core values and beliefs have come up they didn't recognize. And now they realize we're not exactly in alignment here. So I like you, but I don't want to hang out with you. I like you, but not to the extent that you've actually are a friend. I'm just an ally. I'm just a cheerleader. I'll go to your event. I support you playing soccer, but I don't support your religion. I don't support your family and how you live your life. So I think a majority of people fall into the ally range and every once in a while swing into the adversary range. And so someone might be like 80% ally and 20% adversary, but they're not a true enemy and they're not a true friend. Uh, so there's no reason. So there, you might be able to just wait it out and not go into full on psychic protection, magical mode. And then, okay, so let's move on. I've noticed through my observations, a lot of people play the victim to activate their bully. But their bully is in disguise of I'm defending myself. I'm defending my race. I'm defending my culture. I'm defending my religion. I'm defending my beliefs. I'm defending someone else. I'm protecting them. I'm needed. And so we justify our our violent side, our aggressive side, and we paint it as a heroic. We paint it as warrior. I'm standing up myself. I'm an empowered woman now, and I'm gonna get you, little skinny brown faggot boy. I'm gonna defend myself and avenge all women or all Christians. I'm so like sometimes we align ourselves with a group cause, like a tribe, a nation, a culture. We really identify it, so then we personally get offended. And then we take it upon ourselves to defend it. And that's you wrongly activating your inner hero to fight a battle. And we see this in comics. Wonder Woman puts her golden lasso on herself, her truth telling lasso, and she goes inward and she asks herself if what she's doing is right. Is she really a hero? Does she really? And so she questions herself. And I feel like we need to question ourselves. With religious cult thinking, you're taught not to question yourself. Your motives must be right. And I think it's just human nature to think if I'm feeling negative, I must be right and I'm being mistreated. When really, like the beginning of the video, if I'm feeling negative, resistant, or have a lot of energy on this, if I feel activated and triggered, it could be because in my programming, in my past experience, I haven't come across this experience, this reflection of what this other person, no one has talked to me so boldly. No one has broke my boundaries so harsh. So I'm reacting negative. I'm feeling offended. I'm feeling victimized. I'm feeling bullied. I'm feeling judged. When someone makes an honest evaluation of you, you might be going, quit judging me. When the reality is, oh shit, I have a lot of energy of that. Thank you. Ow, that freaking hurt. Yeah, I was ungrounded. Yes, I don't know what I want. I'm not being held accountable. And me being like this doesn't help society. You've raised my awareness. It fucking hurt. So instead of saying you're an enemy or I need to retaliate and get defensive, I need to protect myself and be heroic, it's like, no, I need to reflect on this. Oh my gosh, I see where you're right. Oh my gosh, I also see where you're wrong. I see that you were saying it to me in a wrong way, but I thought deep about it and found the right in the wrong. And I've now been advanced to a new level of self awareness. Ow. Thank you. So, a lot of these people that rub us the wrong way are reflecting things. They're showing us where we have triggers. And those triggers aren't even about you or them. It's about the programming of generation society. And so then we can like blow it up. So in a negative way, we really aligned ourselves maybe with a culture or a religion or a race. We can also now blow it up and align with humanity in general. Wow, this type of thinking, this maybe white man religious thinking or feminist thinking or I'm going to have to say angry, passive aggressive, gay culture thinking and comparison is wrong. And I see now I'm part of the collective experience. This story we can't escape. Everyone in the West is living out a story. And as an individual, it's not all my fault. So this might be a huge relief for people who are experiencing the negative effects of Black Lives Matter. It's like, no, you're not racist. It's the whole US culture, Christian culture, has kind of conditioned everyone on a subtle level to be racist. And it's not you're racist, it's there's racist programming. It's not you. And that could be where you detach. That could be where we get a clean psychic surgery and we remove ourselves. Now you're not stuck in the story. You're not identifying with that cultural program or family program, religious program. And now you're just you. And now you can go from there. So that was like maybe the analytics. That was like thinking. That was like a little psychology. Um, and that was a lot from an encounter with someone. So most of your problems are actually your own problems. It's really hard to escape yourself, and there's an inner conflict. So in great writing, it's man against nature, man against man, and man against himself. Whatever you're going through, we kind of see as a combination. We saw man against man as cultural programming. We saw man against self when you adopted those programs, or you just can't escape it. And then, so man against nature could be like man against the world. We're globally conditioned in the time period you're living in. We are all subject to those forces. What one country does to another country, what one country watches, you know. So with this globalization, that's actually always been global. We see the impact of resources. We see, so we can bring this into modern terms. So here you are. You can have a little compassion for yourself. You go, wow, I'm in the midst of global change. One individual who has 80 years to live, whose brain doesn't fully get online until they're 30, who has a whole bunch of cultural expectations put on them, and you're supposed to what, be perfect? Let's have some compassion for you. Now let's also have maybe compassion for your opponent. uh, let's put them in the right context too. So it was like three lenses that we were dialing and adjusting to get a clearer perspective. And so now we know the conditions. And now you get to also decide if you want to play, if you want to move on, if you want to just forget it. Uh, that was a lot. Honestly, that was a lot. So is it really worth your time? Because really, you only have a certain amount of energy and you only have a certain amount of time. So maybe it's always best to then just work on you. And so then we go to boundaries. Let's establish some personal boundaries. You should have a space in your home that doesn't have anybody else's influence. That would be gifts, objects that people have given you, uh, that seem to have that they've imprinted on with intention. General stuff like you went and got a used book from the bookstore. Obviously, it came from someone else, but you purify it and cleanse it, and it's in your home. So you saged it. You know, it's yours. During that transaction of you paying money for something, you've kind of cut the tie of that being someone else's and that being that business's, and now it's yours. So that's, in a weird way, part of the cleansing ritual transaction. So basically, I like to have my room, my bedroom, my personal sleeping space, my personal creative space. Nothing, no gifts from anyone is now allowed in my room. Uh, no borrowed items in my room. That creates a space for me to feel myself, feel my energy, and really it's aligned. So if anything new enters with that type of clarity of just vibing at my beat, my vibe, if something tries to come into that space, it's easier to pick it up. It's like, whoa, that's someone else's energy. Because my room is my energy, it's an extension of myself to a degree. Anything that rubs up against it, I'm aware of. So that's like a red flag. That's like your scout. So you know if your room feels off, that sacred space feels off, that something is trying to interact with you. So we live in a universe where it's not really chaotic, but as a requirement, forces have to interact. You have to interact with your environment. You're interacting with your body. Your body's interacting with you. So a lot of times we mistaken some of these interactions as we reject them and we think we're under attack when we're not. So when biology goes crazy, we think we're under attack. When we don't understand deep things inside of our own personal psychology, like being triggered, like we really explained, um, when things oppose your idea of reality, your idea of stability, your idea of right and wrong, when they rub up against it, we feel triggered. We might feel attacked. We might want to retaliate and things like that, or go into hyper vigilant mode or protective, whatever it is. So number one, really have a space that's clean and clear. This serves many functions. Because it's so clean and clear, um, your guides, the higher beings that wish to work with you, um, can materialize much easier dealing with just your energy than than the other energies disrupting the space. So it also grounds you, clarifies you, so it increases your magical psychic ability. To So it's really important to have a sacred space. It's a temple space, and it's your temple. So that's what's so cool about it. It's not neutral, it's personalized, it's your space. So this video is basically over because it only gives me about 30 minutes on my phone to make these videos. Um, the scientific view is probably something I want to go after, and with the anti-magic that I kind of hinted at. Um, Disbelief is the opposite belief, so it's believing. So you can't say, "Oh, I don't believe," because that's believing and not believing. And that can actually work to dismantle other people's magic. So when you say, "I don't believe in voodoo," and it's not like, "Oh, yes, I do, I'm just saying it." It's, "No, I don't believe in voodoo. I don't believe in the gods. I don't believe in voodoo dolls, and I don't believe someone has power. I don't believe that individual is actually working with deities. They're just hallucinating in their own limited mind. And them and all their hallucinations, them and all their aggressions are not as strong as me and my desire to live, me and my desire, my right to exist. Who gives another person the right to determine if I live or die, if I'm healthy?" And so you can combat most people's magic with strong anti magic beliefs. So we're like, how come some people say, "Oh, I'm a scientist and I'm rational and I use logic"? Most people who say they're rational and logic and scientific, they're believing in a system of logic that's not even logical, a system of rational that maybe our society supports but isn't even rational. And so the gods must be crazy and we must all be insane. And so in the end of the day, people are just marching down the street with their own little flag. And so you get to now use that knowledge and march down the street with your own flag. And all of it's silly and insane. But so sometimes you have to fight insanity with insanity, fire with fire. So this is the insanity. Your opponent is belligerent, ignorant, and they're using their beliefs and their emotions and the idea, the assumption that they could possibly overpower you with their intentions, focused through some type of magic and really aligning their identity with that. So it's all ego warfare. And I call it, it's trashy use of magic. So this dismantling, this scientific way of looking at things through atheist magic, anti magic, whatever you like to call it, can be very helpful. You're like, so you can use psychology. I believe in psychology, and your magic is archetypes. Your magic is subconsciously triggered by past emotional events, and this is a magical system. We call it psychology. You can use that to dismantle someone's negative energy coming towards you. You're like, you're a product of your collective and your generation, and the archetypes of your white man culture have influenced you with your invisible punishing god, and now you're taking it out on me, who's of multiracial and non-binary descent, and so thanks to your invisible god and the story that you're living out unconsciously, I now don't subscribe to it. So you can use a narrative, a Christian narrative. I don't believe in evil. I don't believe in an invisible God. And so anyone who's praying me up, praying me down, your magic has no power over me. So it's beliefs against beliefs, energy against energy, emotions against emotions. And you might want to select thoughts, beliefs, and story scripts that are stronger than your opponent's. So it's very interesting how you can just use psychology to break it all down. Can you use real magic? Yes. But then you have to decide, is it really worth that much energy? And can you simply clear it out with burning some sage? Can you remove it through forgiveness work? Which forgiveness is I detach, I set up new boundaries, and I let you be you and me be me. And yeah, maybe you did hurt me, but in the long run, it's not worth dealing with you. So let's just kind of separate and move on. And I'll work on being good, and you work on being good. And let's not. So, soon as someone. Yeah, so it's all about just getting back to you. Don't give your power away. Like the reality, the more time you're on your center, the more time you're you, the more your personal power increases, and then you just jump to this new level where you're like, oh yeah, I don't play with people like you. So as soon as people start getting negative, reactive, defensive, I'm like shutting the door. I'm like, I've ascended. I go, I realize life is me doing me. And the more I invest in me, the more my energy grows. And the more I'm out of that lower vibe. That's personal evolution. And that's good for the planet. That's good for my family. That's good for all my connections. And it's good for myself. And so I'm aligned with that. So use your negative experiences to remind you you're off the path of your ascension, of your developing you, getting deeper into your center, going inward, and also aligning and ascending. And so I would definitely say I'm heavily into personal transformation and self evolution. And so, no, without an apology, I will not get into a magical war. I will push you out. So my psychic magic is just to push people out of, to reestablish boundaries and to get clear, is basically what most of it is. And to put people in their place. No one is above and no one is below. And then to put myself back on my center. Gather up all my energy. Clear the memories. You don't need anyone or anything. Be a light in the world. Stand alone.